All right, it looks like we are ready to begin. It is 2 minutes after 12, and I am super excited. It's my absolute privilege to welcome you to the Assisa Foundation's Build Up for Artists Financial Literacy Program. What an amazing time we are in for. If you were part of the group last week, if you were part of the webinar, please type in the chat. Let us know that you're here. Let us know what you thought of last week's webinar. I personally thought it was absolutely amazing. And I know that we are in for another great time together. My name is Darren August. It's my absolute privilege to be your host this afternoon. And I am not alone. I have an entire team working this webinar with me. And so first of all, let's welcome Olivia, who is standing by. She's our resident expert and business coach. Olivia, do you want to quickly switch your mic on and say hello and let us know how you're feeling all the way in Cape Town?
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, artists. I'm very excited to be part of the second webinar, and I would like to welcome you all. Remember that we are here for you today. So I'm sure that you are building up. And as Darren said, this is funded by our sister foundation, Wire, and I am ready for you as soon as Darren is done with the interesting topics. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Olivia. Beautiful. It's so great to have all of you here. I'd like you to just let us know in the chat how last week went. I'm going to read out a couple of messages. We've got Angel saying, hello, everyone. We've got Eva saying, hello, everybody. Tabisa saying, I am here. Quite a few of you here already. So excited. And as I mentioned, it's going to be a great time. Today's topic is going to be quite an interesting one, but so necessary, especially for where most of us find ourselves in this day and age. You know, savings and investments is really so important. And there's so much more to still look forward to over the coming weeks. But welcome. It's going to be a great session. Remember, we're going to be together for approximately 2 hours. We won't run for 2 hours straight. We will take a break in between. So do look out for that. But please stay engaged, stay committed, absorb all of this content. And then do remember that we do make replays available for you as well. So you will be able to access this webinar and all of the information that we share on this webinar as well. Great news is that we have the website up and running. I'm going to share the website address with you a little later on. And we also have the Facebook page up and running. And so you'll be able to join a private Facebook group where you'll be able to interact with fellow webinar attendees. And you'll also be able to just look a little bit smarter than some of your peers, because you'll be able to get all of this information, and then your conversation will just level up, and they'll be like, something's happened to you. So I'm really looking forward to that. Tammy saying, looking forward to today's session. Last week was really amazing. Thank you very much. Appreciate your comment over there. Guys, remember, the success of this webinar is 100% dependent on your interaction, on your participation. And so when we do ask you for feedback in the chat, please do that. When we ask you to participate and to share your experiences, it's so important that you do that, because you might have something that you've been through that I may not have, and we all able to learn from each other's experiences. And so it's really important that you share as much as you can, that you participate, and that you please comment in the chat. It's going to be absolutely great. David saying, I'm so looking forward to today's session. Thank you, David. It's an absolute pleasure to have you here with us. Let's quickly recap how the webinar works, especially for those who may be joining for the first time. So generally, you will see my slides, and you should see me in the corner of your screen somewhere. And then most of the interaction from your side will come through on the chat. Occasionally, when we do need somebody to share feedback, we will ask you to raise your hand. And so at the bottom of your screen, you'll see that there's chat box. There's also your microphone and your video. And so if you're able to, then if you are going to be sharing feedback, we will ask you to raise your hand, and my team in the background will be able to promote you to panelists so that we can have you up on screen as well. It would be great if you could share your video so that we can see what you look like, but there's no pressure. If you would just like to turn your microphone on when it's your turn to speak, that's perfectly fine as well. Let me quickly introduce the team. You won't be able to see them, but they are working super hard in the background. And I promise you, I would not be able to do this without the entire team standing by. So great shout out to Keliwe, who is on technical support. And we also have Crystal monitoring the chat box. And so if at any point during the webinar, you have any issues, you can't see something, you can't hear properly, or you have a question and you can't get my attention, please type it in the chat. Crystal and Keliwe will get back to you in the chat and they will respond with you directly. All right, and so it's going to be great. Somebody here saying, okay, that's not an important one, but you guys all excited? Everybody ready? Are we all excited? Yes, yes, yes. Okay, great stuff. So before we get into the content today, I'm going to ask the team to put up the poll. All right, so we're going to share a poll right now on the screen. The poll is going to come up. And guys, the purpose of this poll is really to gauge where you're at when we start the webinar. And then we want to see where you're at the end. So sometimes you might see that some of the questions are repeated, and that's okay. That's completely fine. The reason we do that is because we want to see the transfer of knowledge. Also, this helps us really just to tailor make this program and improve the program for you as well. And so please, humble request that you participate in the poll as we put them up. And as I mentioned, I know some of the questions may be repeated, but that's okay. It's really so that we're able to gauge and see that this is serving you well and that you actually are benefiting from this program. And so team, if you would please publish the first poll, and we're going to get everybody to participate in the poll right away. So the poll should be up on screen right now. Can we get the poll up? While we're waiting for that, let me read a couple of chat messages here. Tabisa saying, last time I couldn't stay longer, so today I'm super excited. Thank you, Tabisa. Glad to hear that as well. Do we have the poll ready, guys? Can we get the poll up? Poll is up. All right. So we have the pre-poll up. There are 10 questions, if I'm not mistaken. That's right. So 10 questions on screen right now. You should be able to see all of these questions. All right. So you should be able to see the box with the poll, and you are going to choose the answer that you agree with most. All right. Remember to scroll all the way down to the bottom before it will allow you to submit. All right. So if you would please participate in the poll right now and vote. If you can't see the questions, if you can't see the poll, please, if you would just type in the chat and the team will send you, and they will deal with it and send you a link for you to complete it on your side. All right. All right, so it looks like there's an issue on the first one. It says true or true. Let's make number 2 the second one. So if you feel it's false, just vote for the second true. Sorry about that, Lizo. Well spotted there. Okay, so let's assume that the first one is true and the second one is false. If you would like to vote false, use the second true for your answer in this case. All right, but if you would then just complete all of the questions, remember to scroll all the way down to the bottom. There are 10 questions. I'm going to be quiet for a little while so that you guys can vote. And then I'll update you as the voting goes. I'm going to keep it open for about 2 minutes. So if you could please vote right away. Remember, for the first question, if you would like your answer to be false, then please choose the second true. All right, and let us know if you can't see the poll. Also, guys, throughout the webinar, if you do chat in the box, just make sure that you select all participants so that we can see, so that everybody can see your comments. I think it's really beneficial when we're able to see each other's comments. So make sure that you just use the drop-down arrow. There's a blue drop-down arrow where you'll be able to change it and select all participants, and then we'll all be able to see your responses. All right, voting is underway. It's going well. Looks like about 4 of you have completed it so far. I'm going to give a couple more minutes for everybody else to complete the chat. Not the chat, the survey, the poll. Those of you who can't see the poll, please type in the chat and the team will send you a quick link and you'll be able to complete it there. Remember that there are 10 questions. Those of you who have completed the poll, please tell us what you're looking forward to learning on today's webinar, and tell us how you're feeling about the webinar as well. That would be great, so I can read out your comments along. And let us know where you're tuning in from as well. That will be great. It's always great to know who's on the webinar and who's joining us. So if you would type in the chat, if you've completed the poll, just let us know how you're feeling. Let us know where you're tuning in from, and let us know what you're looking forward to learn on today's webinar. About half of you still need to complete the poll on screen right now. So if you can just continue doing that. Okay, 10 more of you still need to vote. I'm going to keep it open for 1 more minute. Just a reminder again that if you would like to chat in the chat box and make sure we can see your comments, there is a little blue highlighted drop down arrow. We will be able to say all panelists and attendees, and that will mean everybody will be able to benefit from your comment. Right, so it's in the message box. Okay, a few more of you still need to vote. Just waiting for you. Guys, how come nobody's telling me what you're looking forward to? Nobody's telling me how you are learning, how you're enjoying the webinar so far. David saying striking photos in the background. Aren't they beautiful? We've gone for a local feel today. Thank you, David. I'm glad you like the pictures. Toberin here from Artscape Theatre in Cape Town. Hope to learn a few techniques in better saving for the future. Thank you, Toberin. Beautiful comment there. I know you are absolutely going to benefit from today's webinar. Anybody else? Let's see. Let me know where you are. It's great because now I know who we've got on the webinar. We know now there's a Toberin. We know there's a David. So keep it coming, guys. Let us know where you're tuning in. Know how you are, what you're looking forward to learning on today's webinar. There's about 2 or 3 more of you that need to vote. I'm going to keep it open for 30 seconds more, and then we'll take it down. David says, I also like how those questions were structured. Thank you, David. Great feedback. Tato here for the first time joining the webinar. I'm into engineering field, but in the coming year, I want to explore the finance field. Great stuff, Tato. Thank you so much for joining us. Kaya Letu saying, I'm quite excited about today's webinar. Last one was informative, so I expect a lot from today. Thank you so much. And you all the way, Kaya Lecha, thank you so much. Catrice saying hi. Catrice saying, I can't see all chats, nor can I send to everyone on my side. All right, guys, just check nicely and make sure that you are sending that you select all participants. But either way, don't worry, I'm going to try and read and acknowledge most of the chats today anyway, so that's going to be fine. All right, it looks like everybody has voted. And so team, you can end the poll and you can take it down, and we will continue with the webinar here. Lizo saying, also trying to find new methods, financial tricks and tools to stretch my pennies further, like that. Also, when it comes to artist finances, business and financial literacy have been somebody else's job. So excited and hoping for an informative interaction. Thank you in advance. That's Lizo all the way in Jersey. Thanks, Lizo. Great to have you with us today. Let me get my presentation back up, and we will then be able to continue and get the show on the roll. There we go. All right, guys. So as I mentioned, today's topic, we're going to be talking about savings and investment. And it's so important to realize that when it comes to saving and investment, this is now about taking responsibility for your financial future, but also about building up a savings and financial surplus to achieve your goals. We spoke last week about the fact that when it comes to budgeting, you have to budget towards a goal. We plan our lives, we plan when we're going to have a party, we plan when we're going to have married, but when we're going to get married, but it's so important for us to plan with our money as well. And so savings has to become a habit. And I know for most of us, it feels like, how can I save when I've already only got so much month at the end of the money? But it is something that we have to speak about. It's something that we have to start forming as a positive habit, because else we're never going to achieve all of those things that we have in mind for ourselves. And there are many possible vehicles to use, things like savings clubs and stokvels, savings accounts, notice deposits, tax-free savings products. We're going to talk about some of these in a few minutes, shares and unit trusts, government bonds and retirement annuities, and endowment policies. So savings doesn't have to be putting the money under the mattress, all right? I'm hoping that by the end of today's session, you'll be able to identify what mechanism and what savings vehicle is going to be appropriate for you. And then what's very important is that you just get started after today, if you haven't already. So if you already haven't embraced the culture of saving towards your goals and saving for yourself, then it's important that after today, you just would be able to start so that you can start getting improving and getting closer to those financial goals and dreams that you have. When it comes to savings, guys, very important to remember that it has to be linked to our goals. And so we have short-term, medium-term, and long-term savings goals and savings vehicles that are suitable for each of those different goals. All right. So for example, some of the vehicles I mentioned on the previous slide, if we had to use them and break them up into different categories, they are most likely suited for these types of goals. And so if we were saving in the short term, we would want to make sure that we're able to access our money within a short time. And so a couple of the best ways to save for short-term goals would be a savings account, a money market account, a call account where your money is available within 24 to 48 hours, or otherwise notice deposits. And most notice deposit accounts, you're able to get access to your money within 7 to 30 days. Doesn't help you saving for an emergency and putting it in a fixed deposit for 18 years, and then you have an emergency and you can't access that money. So very important, if you know that you are saving for a trip at the end of the year, then it means you want to put your money and save in a vehicle where you'll be able to access your money when the end of the year comes. All right. And then Stockfiles is also a great short-term savings vehicle. Medium term is generally 2 to 5 years. And so here you're looking at tax-free accounts. We know that the government now allows you to have up to a maximum of, I think it's about 33,000 Rand in a tax-free savings account where you don't pay tax. And so that's a great way to save for a 2 to 5 year goal. Unit trust as well, retail bonds, and endowment or contract save accounts. Those are all suitable for a medium period, which is 2 to 5 years. And then long term, this is where you now are saving for the future. You're saving for those big things that you want to do, but you're also thinking about retirement. And so those are things like pension funds, provident funds, and retirement annuities. Those are more catered for the long term. And you're thinking especially around retirement. And we're going to get into what those are shortly. All right. Let's take a look.
Paul is my most interesting customer. He's always trying to bargain. He takes his time, always trying to save a buck. Not everyone understands his ways. Paul, usiva waya waya. So that he can afford the most important things in his life. Like the best education for his late brother's children.
Isn't Paul wise? I think quickly in the chat, let's have just a minute or so, and I'd love for you to tell me how you interpreted that video. I know it was short and effective, but please let me know, what did you take out of that video? I'm going to give it about a minute for you to type in the chat and just tell me what your takeaway was from that video. What is one of the things that you noticed about Paul? Yes, it was a little bit frustrating for him, for the people behind him in the queue, but what stands out? What do you believe the message of that video is? While you're doing that, let me read a couple of chats in the chat box. Faith Mtetwa saying, hello, I'm Faith. It's my first time. I'm a fashion designer and I'm still trying to pick up the pieces from COVID-19 pandemic, but I'm happy to be part of the webinar today. Thank you, Faith. Thank you so much for joining us. All right, guys, so I'd love to know, what did you think of that video? What do you believe, or what do you think the main message of that video is? What do you think we're trying to illustrate in that video? And while we're waiting for that, your chats to come through, we're going to continue going on. Tobrin again says, I think Paul was trying to decide if that chips was a need or a want. Beautiful. I like that. Also, let me not add all that, but I think that's a beautiful one. Let's see if anybody else picks up a couple of the other things. So great comment there, Tobrin. Thank you so much for your comment. He was trying to decide if the chips was a need or a want. And I know it looks like a silly example, but that was really one of the takeaways from last week. We need to be so mindful when we spend our money that we are prioritizing and that we budget even on the little things, because after buying that packet of chips every day for a week and every day for a month, it all adds up. And so very, very important that we budget. I think what was great there was also just how there was such focus in his spending. I believe he was so focused because he understands that his priority is not having chips and a cold drink right now. His priority is, okay, yes, I need some water, so let me buy water because I still have other responsibilities to take care of. Paul is taking his time to decide if what he wants to buy is necessary. Thank you, Tabitha. Appreciate your comment. All right, guys, so I'm gonna give it about a minute for you to do the activity on the screen right now. And I'm hoping you've got a piece of paper and a pen, and then we are going to open up and just get some feedback from somebody on the webinar today. But when it comes to savings, very important that you don't just save for nje, all right? You want to be specific in your savings. And so the best way to do that is to save towards a goal. And so it starts by almost vision boarding what you're saving for. And so on screen right now, there's a quick activity that I'd like you to do. And the reason I want you to actually do it is because we don't often take the time to do this. We don't take the time to prioritize our goals, and especially our financial goals. And so I want you to think of something that you want, either short-term, medium-term, or long-term. Draw a picture of it or just write it down somewhere, and then work out how much you need. You know, so it's great to say that you want a car, but have you checked out how much that car is going to cost? All right. So how much do you need? Write that the price of the item there, or an approximate price. Then how much you can afford per month to save towards that goal. And then how long will you need to save? So it can be either in months or years. And then by when do you want to have or achieve that goal? By when do you want to be able to have enough money to achieve that goal? So let me give you a minute for you to do that. You can make it a reflective exercise, or if you would like to share your feedback in a minute or so, please type in the chat or just raise your hand and we'll get you to share your feedback. So take a minute to think about a goal for yourself, either short-term, medium-term, or long-term. Draw the item or write the item down. What's the price of the item? How much you can afford? And let's see what comes out of it. Kaya Letu saying, saving means differentiating between needs and wants. These saving habits often irritate those around you. Beautiful, I like it. Guys, anybody wanting to share your feedback? If you would just raise your hand or type in the chat me, and we'll get you up so that you can get us to give us some feedback. All right, so you've quickly done the exercise. You've looked at the goal planner up on screen. You've chosen an item, worked out how much you need, how much you can afford to save every month or every year, and by when you'd like to do that. Anybody else? Anyone wanting to share? Let's see if we can maybe get Angel. How about Angel? Can we get Angel up on screen? Angel, if you can quickly take us through your example. You're going to give us an example of what it is a goal that you are saving towards and just how you've broken it down. I know this might be a little bit personal, so maybe not everybody's comfortable with it. If nobody's keen, we can simply move on. I don't mind. I've got a big goal because I'm turning 40 next year, and I told my wife already, like, this is how, like, you need to stop spending, because for my 40th birthday, I'd like us to go on an overseas holiday if the borders are open. And so, yeah, she's had to now stop spending because that's how it works. Right, let's continue. Okay, so when it comes to savings, let's quickly summarize. You need to save towards a goal. I'm sure we all understand that by now. So save either short, medium, or long term. And as we mentioned, short term is probably in the next couple of months, medium is 2 to 5 years, and long term is 5 years and more. Discipline and determination, very important. You have to save regularly because you're trying to make it a habit, you know, and we all know habits don't just happen like that. It takes time, it takes discipline to get into a habit. And so start small, set realistic goals. Your goals have to be smart. We all know this. So smart means specific, measurable, what's the A? Specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time bound. Okay. So make sure that your goals are smart and that you are being realistic with it. Reduce unnecessary expenses. So, I mean, I think that was beautifully demonstrated in the video, that by reducing unnecessary expenses, you're able to save more and you're able to make money available to save. Explore and find suitable savings and investment products. There was something that we learned on a previous webinar where somebody said, invest in what you know, which is very important. Don't just get into something that you don't know and you end up losing more money. So explore, do your research so that you find something that is suitable and that is appropriate for the goal that you have. All right, consult with a certified financial planner. And great news, we actually have a financial planner coming on one of the webinars in the upcoming weeks. So you want to make sure that you register for every week. Then interest is earned when saving, very important. You want to try and maximize the interest that you're able to earn when you're putting your money away. The longer we save and invest, the better the returns, and no need to borrow in case of an emergency if you are saving. All right, so that's very important there. Okay, so let's see. Lehlohonola, did you want to share? I think Lehlohonola wanted to share. No? Let's move on. Let's move on. All right, guys. So just to summarize it, when it comes to savings, it doesn't have to be difficult. It doesn't have to be difficult. You just need to start. So save towards a goal. That's the first one you want to remember. Always have a goal, because when you have a goal, you're going to be more committed to it. And then you're actually going to be, you're going to know what you're working towards. Save regularly. So get into the habit of it, make it become disciplined in it so that you're able to eventually reach that goal. Save in a separate account. I cannot tell you how important this is, all right? It doesn't help that you save in the same account that you are swiping a card every single day. So find a different account, put the money away so that you can actually see that you're getting closer to that goal, and save what you can. There is no right or wrong when it comes to savings. There's no minimum, there's no maximum. Save what you can. If you can only afford 50 Rand a month, start there. The only way you're going to we've all heard the saying, Rome wasn't built in a day, all right? So you're going to get there eventually. But for now, it's about getting into the habit, getting into the discipline of saving. So save what you can, but the most important is that you just start. And then, very important is that although many of us right now are not even thinking retirement because we're thinking we're young, we're still in university, we're still studying, it's so important that you even start thinking about retirement. If you start planning for retirement at a younger age, chances are you don't have to put away as much money as you might have to if you start later. If you start in your 20s, the amount you need to put away is much smaller than somebody who starts in their 40s or their 50s. And so very important that you already start thinking about retirement so that you're able to start, so that you don't have to end up living in your child's backyard and putting that pressure on your children to take care of you. Let's watch this video.
Gwen has been a secretary for almost 50 years now. Everyone calls her Grumpy Gwen. Grumpy Gwen really doesn't want to be here, but she hasn't saved enough for retirement. Grumpy Gwen isn't wage-wise, so she has to continue working. Unlike the Doolers, who in their retirement can now afford to regularly visit their daughter and grandkids in Durban. And because they saved wire while they were still employed, now they can even afford to bring their favorite chef gifts.
Okay, if you're a Grumpy Gwen, raise your hand so we can see. I'm kidding. Okay, so let's have some comments in the chat. Let me know what you thought of that video. Let me know what your takeaway is from that video, especially when you consider retirement, when you consider where you want to be when you get to the age of Grumpy Gwen, Grumpy Gran. I'm sure Grumpy Gwen is a Grumpy Gran as well. But let us know, what is your takeaway from that video? What is it that you believe is important to consider when we think about retirement? I'm going to give it a minute or so, and then let's hear what you have to say. So in the chat, if you could type in the chat your feedback, your takeaway from that video, or if you would like to come up on screen, just indicate in the chat as well, or raise your hand and the team will promote you so that we can get you up on screen. But it's interesting how these videos are so fun and silly, but they're actually so deep, you know? And so you realize that sometimes we look at those people and we wonder, why is that auntie always stressed out? And it's actually just because, I mean, it's really a stressful thing when you consider the fact that you 3-4 years away from retirement and you've got nothing saved. There's nothing more heartbreaking than watching some of the pensioners in the queue on the days when they get their pension money. It's the saddest thing to see how some people that weren't able to plan for retirement or didn't plan properly for retirement and now have to settle for the bare minimum. It really breaks your heart. And so guys, if there's anything I want to encourage you, it's to start thinking about retirement already. David says planning and saving towards retirement is so important. Very, very true. Thank you, David. Thank you for your comment. Let's continue, guys. So when it comes to saving for the future, save from a young age. When you first start working, retirement might feel like a long time away, but that's exactly why you should save from your very first salary. The longer your savings are invested, the more time it has to earn interest and grow. And as I mentioned earlier on, if you start in your 20s, you are light years ahead of the person who starts in their 30s, and even more light years ahead than the person who starts in their 40s. And so very important that you start as young as possible. Tabisa saying, imagine if you start your retirement savings as early as 20s. When you retire, you can travel and enjoy your money. Beautiful comment there. Thank you so much, Tabisa. Appreciate your comment. So let's talk about some different ways that you could save for retirement. So when it comes to planning for your retirement, there's a lot of different ways that you can think about, right? But broadly, there are 4 main options. And so the first one is pension funds. These are the most common ones. We hear about that all the time. But pension funds are typically arranged by companies for their employees. So with a pension fund, you receive a third of your total saved in one payment on retirement, and then the balance is paid on a monthly basis. So that's how a pension fund is structured. Sometimes your company will contribute a portion, you will contribute another portion, but when you get to retirement age, you'll get a third of what you've saved for all of those years, and then the rest will be paid out to you on a monthly basis. All right, so that's great. So now you know you've got that, and then you can possibly still have SASA also. Okay, so very, very important. Let me take a quick comment here. So Lizo saying, ultimately, financial freedom is of paramount importance. What's scary is how much is enough, really. Thus, investments seem the answer, as they rarely have an expiry date. You can continue investing in financial instruments well after retirement. Beautiful comment. Thank you so much, Lizo. Thank you for sharing that. Provident funds, that's the next one. So provident funds, also typically arranged by your company for your employees. But with the provident fund, you receive the full amount saved in one lump sum when you retire. And this is so important, because a lot of people, especially people who are employed, often don't understand the difference. And so when you get to retirement, you're not expecting this lump sum, and they say, you know, but you've only got a pension fund. And so here's a third, and the rest is going to be paid out monthly. So if you know that when you retire, you want to be able to pay off your house, travel, do whatever you want, then make sure that you have explored a provident fund as well, because that pays out a lump sum as one amount when you get to the retirement age. All right, very important to be able to differentiate between the two. And I know many people aren't able to do that. So very, very important. Then the third one is retirement annuities. And these are normally arranged by an individual when the company doesn't provide a pension or provident fund, especially people who are self-employed. So a lot of people think, oh, I'm self-employed, I'm a freelancer, I'm only an artist, so I can't plan for retirement. But you can. You can actually take out your own retirement annuity and you save each month. And by the time you get to retirement age, you also will receive a third of the total saved and the balance paid out as a monthly payment as well. So that's basically like your own pension fund. It's just called a retirement annuity because you are investing in there yourself. And then the fourth one is a very important one that so many people overlook, and this is called a preservation fund. And these are set up to keep your retirement savings safe or intact when you move jobs or you're retrenched. I'm sure you would have seen so many people think that when they leave a company, they have to cash in their pension, cash in their provident fund, and take everything. And so that's not the case. You are able and you're allowed to move your whatever you've paid while you were employed here, move it into a preservation fund, and you can either then continue contributing, or it can just remain whatever the balance was and continue growing interest, and you can still have it paid out at retirement. So very, very important that you actually know that that option is available to you. I've seen tons of people get retrenched, resign, or move jobs in their 20s, 30s, take all of that money, buy a vrpa, and there goes the money. All right. You are able to move that into a preservation fund and it still goes towards retirement. So very, very important that you are able to do that. All right. I'm just monitoring the chat here as well. No chats right now. Let's continue. Okay, and then very important that even when you are saving, that you don't forget to save for emergencies. All right, if there's anything that we've learned in the last year during this pandemic, it's that emergency savings are so important. You don't know just when your circumstances are going to change. You don't know just when you are going to need that lump sum of money or that urgent pot of cash to take care of something very important. And so so many people's income was reduced during this time, and it's so important that you have an emergency fund. And so experts advise that you should save about 3 times your monthly salary. All right, that's what you want to aim to always have available to you. So if your monthly salary is like David's, which is 300,000 a month, is that right, David? You're earning 300,000 rand a month at the moment. That means you need to have 900,000 rand in your savings, okay? Or if you're like Lizo earning 50,000 rand a month, you need to have at least 150,000 rand saved. So whatever your monthly salary is or whatever your monthly income is, you want to aim to be able to have 3 times that amount readily available at any given time. That is so that, and the reason why is because that's on average how long it might take you to get back on your feet in the event that you lose your job, or you have to battle a short illness, or you break your leg and you have to be in a hospital and then recover for 8 weeks. Okay, you want to make sure that you have at least 3 months worth of salary or 3 months worth of income saved. That's what experts advise. Obviously, if you're able to do more, that is great. So emergencies savings helps us in a time of crisis. It acts as a buffer for people who have contract or irregular income. So those of us that are freelancing, especially in the industry that most of us are in, it's very important that we do that, because you don't know when you're going to get your next salary. You don't know if it's always going to be on the same day. And so very important that you are able to save for an emergency. It helps in times of medical emergencies or shortfalls in medical aid if you need to pay in an additional amount. Takes care of unexpected repairs, and it helps you not to be forced to borrow in an event of an emergency. Very important. When those emergencies pop up and you haven't saved, what happens is you end up having to borrow, and so you're able to avoid that trap if you are wise and you save for an emergency. All right. Sorry, let me go back there. So when it comes to investment, very important that investment is about growing your money, all right? And you need to take into account something called inflation. And so inflation, guys, simply means that what your money is worth today is not going to be the same value as what it is 10 years from now. I like to use the example of 10 years ago, or let's say 10 years ago, a Big Mac was 5 Rand. And now a Big Mac is 30 Rand, okay? but you're still getting the same amount of rolls, you're getting the same amount of tomato sauce, you're getting the same amount of patty. Okay, so that is the how you illustrate inflation. So the value of your money today is not guaranteed to be the same value in a couple of years time from now. And so very important that when you are considering investing for your future, consult a financial planner who's able to help you also plan for that and manage inflation so that your money actually works for you. All right. Okay, very important that you select a product that's appropriate for you. Don't just follow the trend. Don't just do what everybody else is doing. It has to be appropriate for you. As I mentioned earlier on, if you know that you need to save because next year you want to pay lobola, then it means you're going to have to use a different savings tool to somebody who is planning for a holiday in 3 years' time. All right? So use a vehicle that is appropriate for you. Start early and stay invested so that your savings can grow. The longer you're able to leave your money, the more interest your money is able to earn. When changing jobs, consider moving your retirement savings into a preservation fund. We touched on that already. Don't cash your savings because this has tax implications. All right. A lot of times, if you take out that money, and these savings tools and these investment tools and vehicles are designed to benefit you in the long term. And so sometimes by cashing it out ahead of time, you actually end up losing some money, or you end up paying more tax because you are taking your money out early. Sometimes there's penalties for removing your money early. And again, that's why it's so important to make that decision up front and know what your goal is so that you choose a suitable savings product. And then speak to a financial advisor. And as I mentioned, we will have a financial advisor with us on webinar 4 to answer all of your questions. So that's going to be an interesting one. All right. David says, question regarding point number 3. What is your question, David? Let's quickly take your questions. Guys, if there are any other questions at this point, you're welcome to type them in the chat just before we go to a break. Let me see, David, if I can see what your point 3 was. Right, I think, David, if we can get your question, if you can type your question in the chat, what we'll do is we'll answer it at the end when we get to the Q&A. But for now, guys, that's where we're going to stop for a moment, and let's do 5 minutes. If 5 minutes is okay with everybody, we'll be back in 5 minutes and we'll continue the discussion then. Remember, in 5 minutes' time, I stop talking and the expert comes on. We have Olivia, who is going to take us through the business side of things today as a business coach, but she's got great content lined up today. So 5 minutes and we'll be back. Get some water, stretch your legs, don't go too far. Stay tuned to the webinar. We'll be back in 5. Let's go. All right, and time up. We are back. Thank you so much for still being with us. Thank you so much for still staying tuned in. I'm going to stop sharing my screen for a moment because it's time for Olivia to come up on screen. So Olivia, if you can turn your video on. David, I have seen your question, but I would be fired if I answered your question because I'm not a certified financial planner. And so I'm going to keep your question for week 4 when we've got our financial expert, our certified financial planner. And I think it's an absolutely great question that the financial expert will be able to address in week 4. So thank you, David, for your question. Guys, without further ado, it's my privilege to welcome Olivia back. Olivia was with us last week, and I think it was just so eye-opening, Olivia, last week when you covered the business model canvas. And I think you just opened up our minds so much, especially as freelancers and artists, how to start thinking about ourselves firstly as a brand and as a business, and then how to actually start putting things in place so that we're able to grow and expand. And so we're looking forward to what you're about to teach us today. And so over to you, Olivia.
Thank you so much, Darren, and welcome to all the artists that have availed themselves today. I am very excited to be part of our second webinar, as funded by our sister foundation, Save a Wire. Chat with us and tell us if you are still building up. And I am really, hoping that you are still building up because you have decided to attend the second webinar. Whether you are the first time that you are attending, but the fact is you are here with us to learn more. So today, I would like to encourage you to continue responding via our chats as we will be discussing very, very interesting topics that affect our personal lives and business lives. So today we will be talking about how to diversify our revenues. Taking back to last week, remember, we were talking about a business model canvas 2, and we've mentioned revenue streams. If you remember, that was our last segment, which is the 9th segment of the business model canvas. So without talking too much, tell us, what do you understand by the term revenue streams? As I've just reminded you, we were doing this last week with our business model canvas. Chat to us, tell us, what do you understand about the term revenue streams so that we can talk more about diversifying these revenues, because there's a lot of things that have happened, and there's a lot of challenges that we have faced this year, and it's very important for us to actually diversify, to look at what we are doing today and what we have been doing and what else can we do, right? So remember that when we talk about revenue streams, it is the revenue streams is represent the cash that is coming from each segment. And remember that this links to the customer segments. This links to the value proposition, right? And it's very, very important for us to identify those people that we are targeting. So let's go to the types of customers. Let's say, for example, if we're talking to us as artists, we talk about theater companies, we talk about individuals. And again, if we go to art customers, we would be talking about, the home connectors, we talk about interior designers, we talk about investors, we talk about individuals. So it's really, really important for us to understand who are the people that we are targeting, who are our customer segments, and again, what is the value that our customer is willing to pay, and this will result then to generate one or more revenue streams from each customer. I see then we have Tato that says, not sure it's within the scope of today's topic, or there was a question that she asked about black tax. All right, I'm sure we will deal with that. I think, Darren, that was one of your questions. So I'm sure that we'll try and respond to that before the end of the session. If not, we will wait for the specialist that will be coming in the coming weeks, as we will have webinar 3 and webinar 4. So coming back to what we were talking about. Now, what I would like to check with you, if you could share with us, why do you think that we are bringing this topic of diversifying revenue streams now? And have you perhaps introduced any additional revenue streams since or during lockdown? This is one of the interesting ones. As I said to you, there's a lot of challenges that we faced in 2020. You know, why do you think that we're actually bringing this topic of diversifying revenue streams, right? And also any revenue streams, any things or any different ways that we have decided to introduce since or during lockdown, right? Okay.
Olivia, are you saying we should share some of the things that we've done to generate another source of income? So are you asking
Definitely.
for side hustles? Okay, so guys, check quickly in the chat. Let's hear and see who's come up with some of the more creative ways of generating more income, legal ways, okay? Because you don't want to disclose illegal ways. So if you found another way to generate an income during this period or to diversify your revenue streams, let us know in the chat. So tell us what you've done to start generating another source of income. While we're waiting for that, Kaya Letu says, I understand revenue streams as sources of income. Would you say that's correct, Olivia?
Definitely, it is correct, because remember that these are different sources of income whereby you have sales of goods and services, you know, so that money is the money that comes in. And again, as I mentioned earlier on, it's very important for us to identify the types of customers and the value that our customers are willing to pay for this service or a product that you are providing, right? Without further ado, the main important thing when we are diversifying revenue streams is that we need to be able to look at ourselves. Because remember, as artists, we are our brand, we are our business. And I'm going to make use of a tool that is called SWOT analysis. And I would like to see if you can share with us if you are familiar with this SWOT before we can get into it, and share with us if perhaps there's something that you know, perhaps you know what SWOT analysis stands for, what SWOT stands for, and what do you understand? Perhaps are you familiar with the SWOT analysis? Tell us via the chat, right? So as I said, that SWOT analysis, it's a very, very good tool. And this very good tool is that you could use it in all parts of your life. However, today, we're going to focus on how can this tool help us to identify those revenue streams.
Hey,
so there is...
Tommy got it right. Tommy says SWOT: strengths, weakness, opportunities, threats.
Definitely, Tammy. Thank you so much for sharing that definition, you know, of SWOT analysis. This brings us to this slide, whereby we're saying that this SWOT analysis, it actually assists us in objectively looking at the business and gain a better understanding of how we might be able to diversify our revenue streams, and again, to make informed decisions. So as Tammy mentioned, S is for strength, and W is for weaknesses. These are the internal attributes of the organization, right? And when we talk about strength, we're talking about positive internal factors. This could be the resources, you know, that you have as an actor. as a performer. This could be, you know, something helpful to you. If we perhaps we go deeper, we could talk about, are you good with people? You know, do you communicate well, that you could perhaps market yourself properly? Are you a great teacher? Are you good with children? That there could be people coming to you for lessons. So these are some of the strengths that you could leverage on. And again, when it comes to weaknesses, these are negative internal factors that could work against your success in the business. It's very important for us to take note of them and again, to improve on them. The other one that is important is the opportunities. All for opportunities. This is an external factor that can be capitalized on, or you use it to your advantage. And let us look at what is happening at the moment. Remember that a lot of things have been put to online, right? You could, as an artist, perhaps do online shows. Is that an opportunity to you? You allow people to sell, you know, those tickets and book those online shows. Another one could be that you set up a virtual show. Is that an opportunity? Can you identify that as an opportunity? And again, do online workshops. There could be online dance classes, right? Are there any sponsors that are supporting artists there? Investigate that. Are there any clubs? Are there any groups that you could join as an artist or as a designer for you that can help you to market yourself? As I mentioned earlier on, there's a lot of things that have been put online. And as artists, we need to be able to research those things and see if these things can be helpful for us to diversify and generate more income for our businesses and for ourselves, right? And we're coming to the T for threats. Yes, threat is an external factor that could jeopardize our businesses. The main important thing here is, let us look at the biggest threats that you can think for. You know, COVID, we know that is up front at the moment, but it's important for us to know what are the threats that are out there that we need to look out for, right? And this actually brings us to an activity that I would like us to do, which will be a SWOT analysis. I would like us to take 3 minutes of our time and do a SWOT analysis. And this will be, if you can just supply us with 2 points on strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Remember to align it to your profession. And again, bear in mind, as you are writing down, how can this SWOT analysis tool help you to diversify your revenue streams, right? It might be a matter of, I do not have a business at the moment, or I am not taking myself currently as a business person. However, in the future, you might be thinking of, you know, taking that step of opening up or register a business. So if you could please, Darren, if you could please, let's have like a timer for 3 minutes for us to do a SWOT analysis. And what we will do is we will also call people, 2 people that could come through and talk to us and share, you know, their experiences around SWOT analysis, your strengths, your weaknesses, opportunities, and threats.
Okay, so I'm just timing it on my phone because I don't have a timer for this one. But
all right, thank you.
We'll give it 2 minutes for you to quickly do your personal SWOT analysis as explained by Olivia. And then in about 2 minutes, we will take some feedback. So if you would like to share feedback, if you would just type in the chat box and we'll get you up on screen or get you at least to unmute yourself so that you can share your experience. Olivia, can I read some comments while people are working on the SWOT analysis?
Yes, so, please, Darren, we really appreciate that.
When you asked about people diversifying income, there was a beautiful one here from Tato saying, I started a tutoring service during lockdown. It really helped a lot and most students benefited from the services I was offering. Isn't that beautiful?
Beautiful. Well done, Tato. Well done. Well done. And I'm sure it's really contributed in terms of generating more income for your business or for yourself. I'm
not sure if everybody's seen the comment, but there's a great comment from Lizo in the in the chat right now as well, and it says, my understanding of revenue streams is a tool in which to generate income. Ideally, diversifying your revenue streams means additional income, financial security, and thus stability. Should one stream slow or shut down, you have other streams to rely on. One should ultimately thus always be inquisitive and learning personally. Oh, and learning. Then he says, personally, after lockdown, was able to assist wine estates with the unforeseen influx of online orders, which they were all ill prepared for, and subsequently looking at warehousing. Nice one, Lisa.
Powerful, Lizzo, powerful. The fact that during the challenging time, you do not actually sit there and wait is very, very important. And what we're trying to reveal here is that we don't want to wait for another lockdown. We want to prepare now. Perhaps we did not, prepare previously, but let's start from where we are and move on. Because now, if you start preparing now, definitely you will ensure that you have other revenue streams on the way. And again, you will not go to the space whereby you have to close down your business. You'll be able and you'll be ready for that lockdown, right?
Right, we're still waiting for a volunteer to share with us your SWOT analysis. So you've now heard Olivia speaking about it, and you have done this exercise. Quickly share with us, just based on where you are in terms of yourself as a business or as an artist or as a freelancer. After doing this exercise, what are you getting out of it? What are you starting to see as some possible new opportunities? What are you seeing as some of the threats to your current business based on the situation we all find ourselves in right now? Let's get some sharing going, guys. Sharing is caring, all right?
Yeah,
So,
yes. We bring Leshogonolo. I'm not sure whether Leshogonolo is available to share with us.
It looks like Leshogonolo is not online at the moment. So,
all right. Okay, any other volunteers that would love to share their SWOT analysis?
How about Lizo? Lizo, maybe let's get to hear a little bit more about what you do. So Lizo, if you're willing, team, if you can promote Lizo to a panelist, and then Lizo, if you'll put on your mic and your video if you like, we'd love to hear just your thoughts on the SWOT analysis in terms of yourself as a business or as an individual. So Lizo, we're going to promote you to panelist, if you don't mind, and then maybe you can share some of your feedback. And then we'll give it a moment more. Okay. We're just waiting. Team, so here we go. We can hear you. Go for it, Lizo.
Yeah, I actually wasn't done with mine yet, specifically because I am still building up into warehousing. So looking at the strengths, I want to start with that. My biggest strengths are that obviously I am well connected within a few wine estates. It means that actually it's easy for me to go out there and find business for people, or else for me to support people with. For example, you know, many good fellows that open up their online store and within a week they shut it down. And that's because they had not anticipated the amount of traffic that they got. So when I went to them and we were looking at their flow of alcohol, because people are buying alcohol, they were able to say to me, look, we've got so many orders coming through that if you are able to take over that for us, we're willing to give you the entire business. So the strengths are having wine estates like your Waterford, your Avondale, etc., who've been struggling traditionally to sell their brands in stores, so people are buying less and less in stores. And now that they've gone online, they found that they were not really, had never really prepared themselves to be a company that functions in that space. You know what I mean? So I've seen a lot of people are coming out there and are looking for new players who obviously can get them better pricing than your bigger distributors and your bigger warehouse. So the strengths are exactly that. I do know a lot of businesses that are working in the alcohol space. I know a lot of brand ambassadors for different brands, etc. And all of them are crying for the same thing. They're looking for different outlets for their alcohol. And that is why I've gone from delivering into now warehouse. Am I still audible?
Yeah, we're hearing you. I think you're making a couple of really good points.
The weaknesses are quite apparent. Deliveries requires a delivery truck. My initial startup that I actually just went and I found some of these very low cost rental guys on Facebook, etc. Because also they've been sitting stagnant throughout the lockdown, they're able to give me really good differential rates. So the weaknesses I found were that I would essentially like to have my own warehouse and my own delivery fee. But the startup of that, of course, is quite enormous. And one doesn't really want to go and borrow big money when you are still early up in terms of investigating the business process. And also with delivery and warehouse, I think it's a very huge business. There's plenty of business, but very few players in it. I think most of your big guys are more your big warehouses that everyone knows, but there are very few people who are actually distributing your craft brand. There are very few people who are distributing in areas like your previously disadvantaged areas. Very few distilleries will go out to Soweto to actually over and outside of areas like Soweto. So those are the opportunities I've seen. There's a lot of business out there, but I don't seem to have found that there's a clear structure and the way that everyone is doing. So I have to think out of the box most of the time. And the biggest threats I've got currently is that alcohol sales seem to be what everyone is struggling with. Most of the alcohol sales traditionally came from bottle stores and through restaurants and hotels, etc. And I think that most industries are very much lagging behind. So the threats are that South Africa is still not very big on using online services, but we've seen a huge upward trend in people actually using that for the first time now. I've seen the numbers of clicks, for example, who've grown their business by 300% just simply by using their online facility. So the threats I've seen for myself is that the players within the alcohol industry are not moving at the same pace that the market is moving at. So I think they've not built their business model yet to actually accommodate and assist distributors. You'll find a lot of guys, SAB, for example, don't sell directly to public. They still expect you to go to bottle stores. And that makes it difficult. So, I mean, I don't think your corner bottle store is going to just want to deliver a fixed pack to somebody. Those essentially come in directly from bigger warehouses or from the actual supplier and producers. And I think that's why your craft beers and your more niche brands are struggling, because no one is going to drive to Tops now because of limited hours or have to now be forced to queue in line. It'll be easier if these guys were actually already had their entire service product online and you're able to buy directly from whichever you want in terms of alcohol. If you're able to buy your mood directly from it, it will lower the cost. It will also allow you to get directly. And they're not looking that way. They're still looking to use their traditional outlets and their traditional channels basically. So the threat is largely there, is that it seems like if you're not going into the space, you have to innovate yourself as opposed to meeting them halfway.
Hi,
I'm done.
Liso,
Yeah.
thank you so much for sharing. Thank you so much for sharing. You were sort of on and off. So I've heard some of the great stuff that you have shared with us, which is really wonderful. And thank you so much for sharing all those things, with us, because some of the things that you have actually mentioned is about the strategies, when we are using diversification. So for me, you have actually leverage from your strengths, the weaknesses, the opportunities that you have mentioned, and the threats, right? So we're gonna get straight to the strategies. Remember that everyone has been affected with lockdown and COVID, and especially small businesses. And the main thing is that we have to pivot or change the direction. So now, I would like us to just share with us what are the strategies, or the things that you could do in terms of diversifying your revenues. As I mentioned, Lizo has shared some of those strategies already, right? So if you could please share with us via the chat, I will mention some of the things that are happening. If you could please, Darren, help me, my screen. All right, we've managed to win. I've been trying to sort of move with my screen. So finally we have moved. So some of those strategies is that value add, you look at value add options, right? the complementary products. Look at what the clients are looking for, and this links to upselling to your clients, right? In case whereby you are offering one product or one service, you could perhaps offer them a package deal, right? You offer them different things. Start a side business. Lizo mentioned that, right? Collaboration with others within the industry. And remember the importance of innovation. Might happen that you tried it and it never worked. But you know what? This is 2020. This is another month, right? We're looking at a lot of change that happened and take that advantage, right? And then again, creating passive income. This is very important. What do you do when you get a good contract? Do you just spend that money, or do you actually invest in more of the products that could create income for yourself? And over and above, it's important for us to prepare for the future. Very important to prepare for the future and ensure that we have sustainable revenues. For example, the investment, right? Darren mentioned earlier on, you look at the market, you look at something that will be comfortable for you. It could be properties, it could be bonds, look at what works for you and diversify the portfolio. Now, the simple things that we could share, right? You could make YouTube videos. You remember when we were talking about it with SWOT analysis, okay? Remember that you might be creating an online course, dance classes, online tutoring. I remember there is one of the artists that I mentioned, tutoring, and he's doing it already and he's creating more income from himself. Are you good with writing? Start, share your story, write a book, rent an unused space and build an app, right? So in that set, in summary, it's very, very important for us to leverage from our strengths. Let us look at the opportunities in the industry, research the industry, look at what your peers are doing, and not just doing, but doing successfully. We identify gaps. There's a lot of gaps out there, especially during this lockdown and COVID. Let us find those gaps and fill them. Look at what your customers are looking for. What is it that they want at the moment? Let us form partnerships, think out of the box, and be innovative. Without being said, if you do have any questions around the content that we just shared now, which is diversifying your revenues, please share them via the chat. We will ensure that we try and respond to them before the end of the session. Alternatively, we will respond on the ASISA website as well as the Facebook group, right? So if there are any questions, let us know before we actually move to the other interesting topic that we're dealing with today, which is business cash flow, right? So without further ado, I am not seeing any questions that are coming up. So I will.
Maybe yes. I can just share an example. I think especially just considering that we have so many people on the webinar who are freelancers and artists. And I know, when you're talking about diversifying, I've seen some of the comedians, for instance, so we've seen comedians who are so used to doing shows in person, but there's actually quite a few comedians who have now taken their businesses online. They've done online shows, and some of them have done better online than what they were doing, when in the normal circumstances of having to fill up live events. I've seen another comedian who literally, there's a slogan that he uses every single time he does stand-up comedy, every single time he posts a video, and people latch onto that statement. And so what he did was he literally got that slogan designed into a really cool logo, and he had t-shirts, and he's opened up an online store where he now sells merchandise, which is an extension of his comedy business. And I think that's such a beautiful way of diversifying those revenue streams.
Amazing, amazing. And I think, Darren, thank you so much for sharing, those opportunities. And I'm sure the artists that are, part of this webinar are learning a lot, because at the end of the day, it's about generating income. It's about diversifying the revenue streams. So as we're going to be moving now to the business cash flow, I would like to check with you, what is the purpose of the business? What do you think that, what do you think is the purpose of the business? Share with us via the chat. We're ready for you. And as we are going to come up here to these pictures, we have in front of us 4 pictures, which I'm going to call them business A, business B, business C, and business D. I want us to look at this picture. As you see here, we've got hose pipes, but it's different hose pipes, right? And with this, I want you to look at them and see, firstly, the purpose of the hose pipe, and secondly, how does it resonate to the business? How does it link to the business? Because remember, we are talking now about business cash flow, right? So let us look at this. I would love to have one person to share, even if it's via the chat, because when we look at these pictures, picture A, it's a multiple sprinkler, right? And then we've got picture B, which got a loose tap connection. We have a very interesting one, picture C, it's got leaks. And then we're looking at D that has all these knots tied up. So can you share with us, if you relate this to a business cash flow, what do you think is happening here? You could pick any of these pictures and share with us. What do you think is happening when it relates to business cash flow, right? I'm not sure whether we've got some people that are busy sharing in terms of their understanding of what they are looking at and how can they relate this picture that they're seeing in front of them and relate it to business cash flow.
So are you saying each one of these pictures represents something that's happening in a business, and you're
in a business
to sort of determine what we think is happening and what this picture illustrates?
Definitely, okay. Darren, definitely. That's why I called it. I said, you know, if we look at picture A, let us call it business A, business B, business C, business D. But as you're thinking, right, with these pipes, with all these different pipes, there's something happening. You know, there's just something happening. Look at the sprinkler. Everything is just all over the place. You know, everything is just, you know, all over the place. And if I can just talk to you, if you look at just business A, as I said, everything is all over the place. For me, the way that I interpret it is that this business is unfocused. It's trying by all means to save all the markets, right? And the question is, would you actually be able to make some money for yourself, right? Would you be able to get some money into the business if you're trying this and you're not even waiting to see if this works, and then you go to something else and then go to another thing, right? And then if you look at business B, there is that loose tap connection there. And if we're talking, relating this to business cash flow, that means that the money is not flowing in to the business from the customers. Can you see? It's just flowing. As it comes in, it goes out, right? And if we look at C, there's those leaks that are coming out. We're basically losing money in this business, right? I look at it and see there might be theft, there might be fraud, you know, no one knows, corruption, right? There is just no order if you look at that thing. And let us look at business D. These are the kinks, right? There's just a lot of knots. So the money that is being owed in the business, you know, there are just a lot of late payments that are happening. Money is just tied up somewhere in the stock. It's not actually coming into the business. So this brings us to the question of, you know, when we spoke about the purpose of business, remember that we are in business for money. Yes, Darren.
Let me share some of the comments that have come through in the chat. So first one is from Angel. Angel says, I would say the purpose of the business is to offer value through services or products to clients while trying to maximize profits. Then we've got Lizo saying, in A, the business is serving everybody, B, the loose end system, C is wastage, and D is bottlenecks. And Lizo also saying, purpose of business is to make a profit.
Wow. Amazing, amazing, information that you have shared with us. And thank you to all of you guys that have shared. You are definitely on par of it, because remember, we're talking about business cash flow here. And at the end of the day, we want to protect ourselves. We want to ensure that that money comes in, because that cash, at the same time, we are able to do payments to our suppliers. We are still be able to open the doors of our business, because we are in control of the business cash flow. We are in control of the money coming in and the money coming out, right? And this is where we are going to talk about a tool, a specific tool that we call it business cash flow. But on that note, I think just before we go to that tool, let's talk about, what is your understanding around a cash flow? What do you understand when we talk about, cash flow? Because sometimes we experience a lot of problems around cash flow. And this is often because of two factors: stable income and the cash outflow that do not come together, right? Money that comes in that is not stable, and again, the money that comes out that just doesn't come together. It just doesn't click. And that's where we start experiencing some of the businesses and some of the problems within the cash flow. So what we are saying is, when we talk about cash flow, we're talking about a physical movement of money into and out of the bank account. And again, when we speak about cash flow management, it's about how do we actually deal with this money? How do we actually deal with these movements that are within our businesses? And on that note, I would like you to start sharing, as well now going to be speaking about a cash flow tool, right? If we look at this picture now, because one of the things is that it's very crucial for us to keep track of the money coming in and the money that goes out. Remember, when we are not in control, then what normally happens is our doors are closed, right? Or there's just no money available. So this is a tool that we could use perhaps in terms of ensuring that we keep control. So if you look at this cash flow, this is just a 1 month cash flow. And we've got cash inflows, yeah? So we start with an opening balance. How much money did we have when we started with this cash flow? Then we look at the cash inflows. If you look at what we have now on this picture, these cash flows, these are the revenue streams. All the revenue streams, all the sales, that we have made, we have listed them there. And again, we will total all the amount of money, and then we have a cash outflow, which are our expenses. We've listed few, so I would like you to start thinking about your expenses, because that is the cash outflow, which we total it. And then again, what we look at is that we take the total cash inflows and then we deduct the cash outflows, which is our expenses. And we are able to see, do we actually have a shortfall or do we actually have a surplus, right? And when you have the surplus, it's very, very important bringing it back to Darren, what Darren said, and what we're going to talk about soon is saving, right? So we don't actually just take that money because there's a surplus and just use it for our own things, but we put it back to the business, right? We look at what other things that we could do to grow our businesses, right? So looking at this cash flow, I would like you guys to actually ensure that you keep track, you start keeping track so that you are able to be in control of the money that comes in. Because when it comes to cash flow, it's important for us to be able to see, is the business earning little money? Is it making more? Because making more, that brings to helping us to plan for growth and for any other contingencies, right? So please, as an artist, as a performer, as a creative, to bear in mind that it's important for you to know your inflows and your cash outflows, right? Because these things, they all directly link to the budget. Any questions around the cash flow management tool before we move on? Do we have any people that perhaps commented while we are busy?
No questions or comments just yet.
All right, thanks, Darren. So we look at causes of cash flow problems. Remember that if we have poor debt collection and we have poor sales, there's no money coming in. And again, our expenses are very, very high, but the revenue is very low to come in. This will cause a lot of cash flow problems. Because remember, if we're not doing anything about the fact that it takes longer for us to bring in the money into the business. Just imagine, where are you going to get the money from for you to pay for the expenses of running this business, right? And if we stay in these high expenses while we're seeing that our revenues are low, what is going to happen? Because now where we're going, we are going to owe a lot of people, but we are still staying in these high expenses of the business, right? So bring that, how do we then manage or be in control of this? How do we become in control or avoid these cash flow problems, right? We need to be able to collect from our debtors, which is our clients, to ensure that there is money into the business as quick as possible, you know? And one of the things that normally happens is that there's a mistake in the invoice. You send that, and by the time that you have to be paid, then there's a problem for you to be paid. You have to start from the beginning. So very, very important to ensure that those invoices are correct. And again, let's keep our expenses low. This is very important. Manage that stock on hand and ensure that when your revenues are down, you are able to see that they are down. And that means that we need to cut cost, right? We need to be able to cut those costs and be able to be in control of our cash flow, right? We've got a note on the right-hand side that says, in business, people often do not go out of business because they are not making a profit, but it's because of they are not managing the cash flow well, right? Wow. So bear in mind. Yes, Darren, you wanted to say something. That's
such a light bulb moment there. I think it's such a light bulb moment, especially for if you're a small business, if you're a freelancer, if you're a contractor. I think that just hits home so much because it says it so beautifully. We think, oh, it's because we're not making a profit. Meanwhile, it's because we're not managing cash flow. This is so good.
Exactly. So I would like you to actually take point of this, and that it's very important to actually be in control. You plan, you organize, be in control within your business, or whether you are planning to have a business, or whether there are different revenue streams that come through any kind of business, or any kind of cash flow that comes to you. It's important for us to be in control, right? Any questions or comments, perhaps before we can actually move to the other topic of business savings?
Yeah, that was going to be my next question, because earlier on you said it's important that as you start making these profits and as you start generating this income, you need to now move to saving. So I was going to ask, are you talking about saving as an individual or saving as a business, which I think is your next topic? So continue, let's go. This is going so good.
Yes. Thank you so much, Darren. We're now going to talk about business savings. I think earlier on, Darren was actually speaking about personal savings. But remember, these two links, your personal savings and your business savings. So it's very, very important for us to be able to save personally, and again, to save for the business. And if you remember last week, we were talking about differentiating these two, to have your personal bank account and also to have the business account. So that is why Darren was talking about saving personally. And now we are actually talking about saving for the business. Right, so what is your understanding around savings. Share with us. What do you understand when we talk about saving for the business? And do you perhaps think that small businesses or as a startup, do you think that you must have a business saving, and why? Share with us. What are your thoughts? What are your thoughts? Because I want us to actually take saving as a tool, right? And for us to use it for longer term planning as well as for business growth. This is very, very important for us, because just to share what Barbara Weltman said, she's saying that saving is never easy. Indeed, it's never easy. And she just said that many small business owners, they work essentially from hand to mouth, and that is not nice. We want to actually run away from that. However, a change in mindset to include savings as part of a business budget is one way to ensure that you'll be able to control your circumstances. I remember Darren saying this in another version, right? That it doesn't matter really how much do you save. The most important thing is the habit of start to save. It doesn't have a minimum or it doesn't have a maximum, right? So this is really important for us to ensure that we start saving. And again, what you normally do is you save. When you save for the business, it's very important for us to try and save at least 10% of the profits, right? And that is where perhaps you can start affording, that will be an affordability from your side. And again, despite the small amounts, but the fact is it will gradually grow with the interest, right? What are the benefits that you think you get from saving? What do you think that are the benefits that you think that when you save, this is what I'm going to get out of it, right? Because this is very important for us to actually ensure that we keep on saving, right? Because we're not preparing just for the today, but we prepare for the future. And again, remember, COVID happens. We were on a level 5 lockdown. Some of us, they actually took 6 months without doing anything. Some, they were, 4, 5, 7 months without being able to do anything within their businesses. What did you do in that situation? Just think about it. Think about it. But if you start today to save, then it will be great, that you are preparing, you are ready, to plan to have reserves in your bank. So these are some of the benefits that you could get should you start saving, right? You earn interest, okay? Your funds are protected. As Darren mentioned somewhere, that we don't think that there's any people now that keep, the money under the mattress. I believe that all of us now, we have business savings, right? And again, you prepare for the unexpected events like the lockdown, the incidences that are happening, whether it's going to be in the short term or in long run, all right? And again, you've got that easy access to the money, and it helps to increase your credit profile, right? So moving from that, we come to the point of optimizing your banking, right? Sometimes we think that having a bank account or a savings bank account, it becomes very expensive. And we don't actually be aware that if you actually go to the bank and actually tell them about your needs, see, how they can actually help you, right? Some of the ways perhaps that you can optimize from the banking services is that you can make use of ATM wherever it's possible, plan your cash withdrawals, and again, to ensure that you use the self-service channel, which costs less. And again, all these self-service, they are available 24/7. You can use them at your comfortable space, right? So if we look at this, some of this self-service, we're talking about the internet banking. We talk about banking apps, cell phone banking, electronic wallets. And I would love to challenge you that if you do not have a business bank savings, perhaps next week when we're having our webinar, go make an appointment, go and visit one of the banks and see how you can actually save from what currently you are paying to the bank. Because remember, banks as well, they are there to make money through the bank charges. That is the money that they are actually making, right? So go and visit some of these banks and ensure that you speak to those people and see how you can cut costs and be able to save. So make use of those self-service channels, the internet banking, the banking apps, cell phone banking, and the electronic wallets. This is, for me, bringing us to the comfort break. And I'm actually going to ask and double check whether there are any questions perhaps that needs some responses on. If not, we're not able to respond to them now. Remember that we're placing them, all the responses, to the Assisa Foundation website and the Facebook. And again, looking forward to seeing you to our next webinar. I know that we have specialists. We're going to have people that are going to talk to us about contracts. So it's interesting. We've got another exciting third webinar next week. But without further ado, if there are no questions, I would like to hand over to you, Darian, and thank you so much, artists, creative performers. I believe that you are still building up and you are standing up indeed.
Thank you, Olivia. But before we go, so I think what you've said today has really been an eye-opener to a lot of people, especially because we don't often hear about a business savings account. So often people think that they're managing everything from one business account, and as long as there's a positive balance over there, you're doing fine. But I think you've just enlightened so many of us today to realize that it's actually, you need to see your business as a separate individual or a separate entity and start putting money away in a separate savings account for your business as well. Here's a beautiful comment that came through from Tabisa saying, I think it is important to save even if you're a small company so that you can grow for the future. That's a really, really great one.
Definitely.
And I think it reiterates how we said earlier on, just start with what you can, just start with where you're at. And eventually it will become, you'll get into that discipline and the habit of saving. So thank you so much, Olivia. We're going to take a couple of questions and answers in a few minutes. Let's do a quick, I wonder if we should do a break, because let's not do a break. I don't think we need a break. So we're going to go straight into the final survey, and then we'll take a couple more questions. So if you do have questions for Olivia, please type them in the chat right now, and we will take your questions in a few minutes. But for now, team, if you could please put up the poll, and let's see how much you have all learned on today's webinar. Remember, some of the questions may be similar to what you experienced in the beginning, and that's okay. But let's have the poll up. So Keliwe has published the poll. Great, thank you so much. The poll is up. We've got 10 questions again. So 10 questions. If you would please complete all 10 questions right now. Let's get everybody voting. Not voting, completing the survey, please. 10 questions. Scroll all the way to the bottom and make sure that you submit. There are 10 questions. Remember to answer all of them. For those of you who have completed the poll, if you would please let us know what you thought of today's webinar. I'd love to have your feedback there. Team, there's a couple of people who are still on as panelists. I think Lizo as well as Angel. If you could just put them back as participants so that they can vote and participate in the poll. Keep it open for like 2 more minutes. I think there were so many light bulb moments on today's webinar.
It was powerful indeed. Powerful indeed. I'm hoping that there will be people that are sharing with us, you know, the exciting moments as we were, you know, talking about, you know, remember you started with savings, the different kinds of savings. And again, you know, as we're talking about diversifying those revenues, you know, the business cash flow, and again, business savings. It was really powerful, powerful. I've learned a lot as well from you, Darren, as you were actually going through your presentation.
Guys, for those of you who have completed voting already, please note there is a Facebook link in the chat right now. It would be great if you would go and join and like the Facebook page, because it's a closed Facebook group and you'll be able to get so much information. We share so many tips from the Assisa Foundation, from this program on that page, and it's going to be really, really beneficial to you. So you might want to take a moment and do that right now. Kyle saying, wow, business savings account. Thanks, Olivia and the guys. I've learned a lot in the last 2 webinars. Thank you, Kaya. That is a beautiful comment there. Guys, keep coming with the comments. Let's take a few minutes. We've got a few minutes left. So if you would please comment in the chat right now. Let's have everybody, once you've completed the poll and once you've voted, please comment in the chat. What is your takeaway from today? What is the one thing that you are taking away that you can implement straight away in your personal or your business life? Concerning your financial life when it comes to yourself or your business. We'd love to know. So every person on the webinar right now, I'd love for you to type in the chat and just let us know what is the one thing that you are taking away from today's webinar. That would be really great. Waiting for about 6 more of you to vote. 6 more of you still need to participate in the poll that's up right now. Then we'll continue. Remember, guys, you have to go all the way down to the bottom, scroll all the way to the bottom, so that you're able to submit. Keep those comments coming, guys. I'm going to read all of them in a moment. The question is, what is your one takeaway from today's webinar? What is the one thing you can implement right away? The one thing that stood out for you? The one thing that made you want to hide, maybe? I know for some of us, some of the content is uncomfortable, but I'm sure it's beneficial anyway. Five more people still need to complete the poll. Guys, if you could please do that. Make sure that you scroll all the way to the bottom. There are 10 questions again. So if you would make sure you've completed all 10 questions on the survey, and then we'll continue in 1 minute. Some beautiful comments coming through. I'm excited to read them.
Yes.
Olivia, I think what we'll do is we'll read one, okay?
Okay. All right.
In a moment, we'll get into it now.
Okay, that's great. Very good comments indeed. You know, it gives me joy to see that we are all learning, you know, from these webinars. And again, you know, we've got an exciting one next week. You know, webinar 3. We still have webinar 4 as well. So we're really looking forward to seeing all of you artists, you know, creatives in that webinar 3 as well as webinar 4.
Yeah, let's take the poll down, team. Thank you so much. We can take the poll down. Let's end it over there. And we're going to get straight into some comments. Before we do, there was a very interesting question earlier on from Tato. I want to see what it was. It had to do with black tax. Yes, so Tato's question earlier on was with regards to black tax, and this was her comment. She said, where is it? See, now you guys are flooding me with the end comments, but I want to read it because it was a really great one. Yes, so Tato said, just a question. There is something called black tax. Is there a way of avoiding black tax? Because if there is black tax to focus on, I can't actually start saving. And so that is such an important thing and a very real issue for so many people. And black tax, for those who don't know, is the concept where you grew up in the house, you grew up in the family, and now that you're earning money, you need to pay and support your mom and your dad. And they say, yeah, we put you through school, so you owe us. And so you end up paying this black tax because they've basically raised you. And so I think it really relates back to the content we covered at the beginning, where we spoke about saving for retirement and considering your future. Because a lot of the reason why so many people stay in that cycle of having to now support your parents, support adults, we saw with Grumpy Gwen, the example earlier on, that's exactly probably part of the reason why she finds herself in that situation where she needs to rely on her children for an income as well. And so guys, the way you avoid it is by making sure that you plan so that you don't have to be dependent on your children. I can't say to you yes or no, you must, it's right or wrong to pay black tax, but it's a real thing. And I feel like one of the ways to get out of that cycle is by adopting a culture of saving, adopting a culture of planning with your money. And also, as we mentioned last week, it's about becoming comfortable. Remember last week we spoke a little bit about communicating about money. It's a tough conversation. It's an uncomfortable conversation to have, but it's a vital, important conversation to have anyway, because you don't want to get to a position where you find yourself not being comfortable to talk about that. And so very, very important that you become comfortable and confident when it comes to speaking about money. Olivia, let's get into some of the comments that have come through so far. So you kick off and then I'll do a couple of the others that I'm seeing as well.
Okay. I think if you could please, Darren, start, because I'm trying to get to those messages. The minute you placed your presentation, then my messages sort of disappeared. Sure so thing. If you could just kick off so long, as soon as I'm there, I'll let you know.
Awesome stuff. So yeah, Kaya Letu saying, wow, business savings account. Thanks, Olivia. I've learned a lot in the past 2 webinars. Then we've got one from Lizo saying proper cash flow. That's what stuck out for him. Angel saying save, save, save. Tabisa saying today's webinar has taught me a lot about saving. It's good to always stay educated. Then we've got Ndukentle saying thank you. The section on saving as well as cash flow was great, was a great reminder to me. Another one here saying, wow, this was powerful. I'm currently managing my business finance and personal finance in one account, of which it's totally wrong. It's time to manage business finance separately. Beautiful there. Thank you so much for that
yes.
one. Let me see that. Here's one saying, great session. Both speakers are well informed on the topics and especially good that you can relate it to artists. So thank you, Tobran. That's great feedback. Very great feedback. Thank you so much there. Unati saying thank you. Let me see anybody else. All right. I think I've managed all of the comments that have come through. Guys, super excited for the next 2 weeks. All right. There is still so much to come. And so up on the screen right now, there's a bit of a throw forward so you can see what you can expect in the weeks to come. First up next week, we're talking business budgets, we're talking forecasting, we're talking personal and business taxes, we're talking contracts and IP. This is such great information. It's going to be so good for, especially where you're at. You are creatives. So many of us on this webinar are creatives. And so it's very important that you start managing these things. How do you master contracts and your intellectual property? We're going to talk about taxes and financing and forecasting. It's going to be mind-blowing. We've got special guests lined up as well for the next 2 webinars. Then in week 4, we're going to talk about interest and calculations. We're going to talk about managing credit, and we're going to talk about how do you actually raise capital so that you're able to pump that money back into your business. How do you register as a vendor? How do you start getting and tapping into some of those opportunities that are available to you as a small business, as a medium business, even as an individual? And so it's really, really going to be so informative, very super informative, and great information coming your way in the next 2 weeks. So do whatever it is you need to prioritize 12 to 2 for the next Thursdays, the next 2 Thursdays. Register for the webinars, and then also a reminder that you can go onto the website. The website is on the screen right now, www.buildup.org.za. That's the website link, www.buildup.org.za. All of the information that we're sharing on these webinars will be available to you. You will also be able to access replays of each webinar, which is a great tool. Watch it again, take in some of the information, make notes. You'll have some more time. You can stop the webinar if you need to and do the actual exercise, do the actual activities that we're giving to you so that you can really, really dive deep into the content. But very importantly, is the Facebook group and the Facebook page. So team, if you could just put up the Facebook link one more time. The Facebook link is in the chat right now. Click on the link and you would be able to go through and interact there. It's going to be absolutely great. Let me see. There is a David saying, thank you so much for the comments. Jamie Lee saying, I do not have a business yet, but I'm definitely taking note and learning extremely a lot. Thank you so much for that comment there. Before we end off, let's get Olivia, give us a tip for the week, final closing from your side. So 30 seconds just to wrap it all up and leave us with a thought that's on your mind for the week.
All right. Thank you so much, Darren. One tip that I would like to give to our artists, to our performers today, I would like to say that, yes, there are a lot of problems that we're experiencing or challenges that we're experiencing, but they don't end there. It's actually something that have been shared with us, as a team with the Assisa Foundation team. They don't end there, and we do not have to stay there. We need to pick ourselves up and start, acting, as we know that this is built up. So continue building yourself up, continue building your businesses up, and it's about taking actions. We spoke today about savings, we spoke about investment, we spoke about, diversifying your revenue streams. We spoke a lot today. Business cash flows, we spoke about business savings. Start acting today and do not wait for another lockdown to come through. Thank you so much, participant, and for all your contribution and for taking your time and to be with us in these 2 hours. Thank you so much, Darren. Thank you so much, team. Thank you so much, Assisa Foundation, all the funders that have made this program to be available to the artist. Thank you.
Thank you, Olivia. Guys, from my side, I think the one thing that is definitely a takeaway from my side is to just start. Start where you're at. Start with what you can, and to start getting into the habit of disciplining yourself so that you save for the future, save towards that goal. It's been an absolute pleasure being with you for the last 2 hours. Remember to please go onto the website, www.buildup.org.za. Please like the Facebook page, which is in the chat right now. Click on the link. It will take you to the Facebook page for you to like the page and interact there as well. I will see you next week, same time, same place, for another brilliant webinar. My name is Darren August. It's been an absolute pleasure being your host today on Build Up. the financial literacy program for artists brought to you by the Assisa Foundation. Thank you so much and enjoy the rest of your afternoon. Goodbye.